How's it going, everyone? This is Dixon of the Ultimate Gamer. I'm logging on. And it looks like I'll be talking something about my first year with the Sony PlayStation in 1996. Yeah, Resident Evil was one of my favorite games that came out that year, and that introduced me to a new dimension of gaming in the 3D world. Besides that Alone in the Dark demo I played in the year and a half prior on the 3DO. 1996 was the beginning of the Resident Evil franchise. 1996 was also the beginning of another franchise that started out later that year, Tomb Raider, as well as an introduction to the most iconic female action adventures of all time, Lara Croft. When I looked at the game in the magazine, it looked pretty damn interesting, so I rented the game and I enjoyed the shit out of it. So I requested that game for Christmas in 1996. It was debatable which game was the best in 1996. Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, or Twisted Metal 2, or Crash Bandicoot. Well, between the two 3D games, I would have to say it was a tough call. But on the PlayStation 1, I sided with both series, but as time goes by, I've been more into the Resident Evil games. I enjoyed the hell out of the Trilogy that was on the PlayStation 1, even though the PC versions of the games were better. Of course, I couldn't get a PC at the time, though, because I was limited console. But from there on, after the third game, I started losing interest in the series from that point on, so I never got into the follow-ups. But I did play the 2012 remake. The remake was quite dark and impressive. I always loved the classic Lara better. The classic trilogy that was on the PlayStation will always live on in my heart. And speaking of the classic trilogy, the point of this first impression video, what I'm going to be going over is, they recently released the Remastered trilogy of the first three Tomb Raider games. And it was a remastered trilogy well done. More than 2 thumbs up from Aspire. But not from that woke Crystal Dynamics, who object to the classic Tomb Raider games and the classic Lara Croft. Screw them. In fact, Crystal Dynamics have no business having their name attached to this remastered trilogy. I reserved for the remastered trilogy on Good O Games. The remastered trilogy is also on Steam, as well as consoles such as the Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PlayStation 5. But as of right now, it's digital only. I would love to have the game on the Switch. I'm guessing they might have a plan for the future to release physical copies on those platforms, so I'll keep my eye out on those just in case. The remastered trilogy was more likely the remasters of the old PC versions, which were more superior versions back then anyway. And the remastered trilogy has the expansions that were originally PC exclusives back in the day. But now those expansions are available on the remastered trilogy on all ports. Aspire did an amazing job remastering the whole trilogy all around. Well, almost all around, but they still nailed it properly. And what's also amazing is you can toggle between graphics, the remastered graphics and the original graphics from the 90s. And even the original graphical option for the remaster aged pretty damn well, and it still looks fantastic as ever. Looks like you're playing the original PC version with the 3D FX card in HD or 4K. With either graphical option, the trilogy looks better than ever. I love it when you can toggle between graphics with the ease of one button. And it's not just during the gameplay. You can do that at the title menu, loading screens, or cutscenes. They should have this option for all remasters. And a lot of games do, and some of them don't, but they should have them for all remasters. Now the controls, on the other hand, you can either choose between the original tank controls, or the modern controls, or you can customize controls. As a default, they have the trilogy set at the original tank controls, and it's not difficult to tell why. Because the modern controls for the trilogy hasn't been properly programmed. And in ways, the tank controls feel more dated for today's standards. But they're still easier to use. Hopefully in the future updates they can at least improve the modern controls, because I would like to have more relaxed modern controls for a remaster. And here's another cool thing they added in this game is a photo shoot. During gameplay, that is. I haven't got that part quite figured out, but it's pretty cool they added that feature. And for PlayStation fans, you remember the way you save the game on the PlayStation? You'll have to find a stupid crystal in order to save the game. But on the original PC versions, you can save whenever you want. But now you can save whenever you want in the Remastered Trilogy. And yes, you may want to do that quite a bit, because the Trilogy is pretty difficult. Because the game doesn't give no indication on where to go. There's plenty of backtracking, and you'll never know what type of traps you'll come across, as well as hostile creatures. And there's no autosave or quick saves. Which, once again, I hope they added that in the later updates. Now, I only captured some footage from the first stage in the first game, as well as capturing some footage in Laura's house in the 2 follow-ups. One of the biggest moments I had with Tomb Raider 2 was dealing with her old butler, who follows her around quite a bit. Then I found a way to ditch him by locking him up in the freezer. Which sounds kinda cruel, but at the same time funny. But the good news is he doesn't die. He might get frozen for a moment, but at least if you keep the door open while he's still frozen, he'll eventually get unfrozen and comes back out to follow you. So probably keeping it locked up in there the whole time. I didn't capture a lot of footage because it's a first impression review, but I am sure that the footage I captured convinced gamers who remember the trilogy back in the 90s to convince them to get the Remastered Trilogy is totally worth every penny. Of course, if you want to know more about it, you can check out other reviewers that did the review on the game, such as Melanie Max, who's a big fan of the series in general, with the exception of all the later wokeness stuff added into the later games. The Tomb Raider Remastered Trilogy is highly recommended for 90s gamers who are into remasters, and I don't regret getting this game for $30, and it's well worth it. And yes, there's still some things that could be improved in this Remastered Trilogy, and hopefully in the later updates they can actually do that, such as the modern controls, for instance, and add autosaves or quick saves and all that. But still, this is definitely one of the best remastered games of all time. And the developers for this Remastered Trilogy worked pretty damn hard. And I give them more than thumbs up for that. Hopefully they can do the same with the Resident Evil trilogy that was on the PlayStation, later ported to PC. As well as the original Alone in the Dark trilogy that was on the PC. Hopefully they can do remasters of those 3 games. That would be amazing. I know the remake is coming out of the first game, and that one does look amazing in its own ways, but a remastered trilogy of the original Alone in the Dark would be pretty amazing. Okay, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but I wish all that would happen one day. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. This is Dixon of the Ultimate Gamer logging on.